Hello, welcome again to another edition of the Front Row Roundtable show presented by Ralphies. Thank you for being along with us. We've got some fun things to talk about tonight. All right, we have with us Von Graffine back once again. We forced him to come back in. He is the head basketball coach at Port Clinton.
Thanks for having me.
And our court jester, Mortgage Marty Ben, Hallmark Mortgage.
I'm just here for comic relief.
All-around sports guy.
Yes.
All right, right before we sat down here to tape this show, the NFL announced more fun rule changes.
Well, kickoffs. So apparently, no more running starts on the kickoff team. So the team that kicks the ball cannot have a running start.
Should we take these one by one or lay them all out and then go at it? Lay them all out.
I don't mind. See, I don't mind that one. That you got a flat start, you can't get a running start. That one doesn't. That doesn't seem to me. Although I do think it's going to open up returns. I think the value of a return.
Run through them all.
Okay, so no running starts. 8 of the 11 on the return team have to be within I forget some zone they name it, within 15 yards of the ball. They have to be in that zone, and then they can't block until either the ball hits the ground or the ball's been touched. So they can retreat, but they can't engage then until the ball's touched. And then 5 and 5 on the kick team. So you got to have 5 aside, so you can't overload to get an extra gunner free to get the gunner untouched. And no two-man wedge blocks. So you can't link up anymore.
I think the timing of guys running the length of the field and those kind of things are going to throw some of those rules off. It hasn't been tested. We talked about it last week on the show about the inability of coaches to get a look at good quarterbacks in practice with the lack of hitting and the timing. And this rule right here, when it plays out, how's it going to be? How's it going to affect things? You're going to ruin some records maybe through the years of returns and return yards, and I'm not sure how it's going to play out. There's an awful lot of rules thrown at them, and you mentioned earlier before the show talking about the fact that there's so many more injuries on kickoffs. If it stops that, it's probably a good set of rules. If it doesn't, I'm not sure what it's good for.
Let me ask an overall question here. Do they want more returns or less returns?
I think they want
more
safe. I think they want more safe returns. So one guy running around with a bunch of other athletes trying to grab him around the ankles and hope we get him on the deck, as opposed to 8 guys at full speed running in crunch tackles or crunch drill all the time. I think there's a difference. And honestly, as a fan, I think I'm maybe because I've coached enough and seen what happens in those drills. I think I'm okay that we don't have the violence in kickoffs, but I love the electricity of a great return. I do. I think it's a cool part of the game, and I think taking that away, I think just starting on the 20 or 25 takes away a facet of the game that I enjoy.
Well, in the Super Bowl a few years ago, the onside kick to start the second half, that's gone. The strategy
you can still do 5 and 5, you just can't overload.
Well, but I mean, that's the strategy of the onside kick is overload
because they
and get
had
in
too
there.
many guys back.
Right,
well, except now the little pooch though. So if you have 8 within 15 and you get a guy who hits it just perfect into that next zone and you can't get there for the fair catch, or you get the good hop over top of that, boy, I'd like to see the drills for a big tight end or a slot receiver with some great hands who can catch it on that second hop, because you can bounce it and there's not some guy waiting there like this for it anymore. Boy, I think it'd be pretty cool to see that.
I'd be interested to see how it all plays out.
Because I'm thinking that this may change who they choose to keep and put on those kickoff teams.
Right.
I mean, this would, I would assume, mean more speed guys and less bulk.
Right.
Would that be fair to say?
Fewer hybrid fullbacks, outside linebackers, and more safeties, corners, and maybe some receivers who can run a guy down, as opposed to just violent.
Remember the return that Auburn had against Alabama a few years ago on that field goal team was a whole bunch of lumbering guys. They couldn't catch that guy. And so you got to think about what you're going to keep and who you're going to keep and where do they fit in the whole scheme of things. With a 53-man roster, how important are kickoffs and not in kickoffs, and where else can you use those guys?
Well, I think it's going to get back to, the percentage of touchbacks is so high. Now there's a little bit of goal for some teams to not have it be a touchback because they think they can pin you down there because of some of the strategy of this. And I think this will play, I think it adds a wrinkle I'm interested in. good to go back. If there's less injuries, I'm all in favor of that, and I'm also not in favor of completely eliminating it. So I was never sure how you do that because I mean, that coverage is, it's the meat.
But if a defender can't engage until the ball is caught or hits the ground,
well, you're going to,
you could really get downfield.
Yeah, but what you're going to have to do to keep up with that guy is you're going to have to backpedal or retreat. So the collision's not going to be from you starting at the 15, running forwards and smashing into a guy who's already got a 40-yard
but how do you defend it if you can't engage with the guy?
Well, you're just going to run like a gunner, and then you're going to turn, and you're going to set a block to a side. I mean, the smart guys on this are going to do kind of what downfield receivers do, which is the back's going to cut off. I mean, I don't know how many use, but we used to say cut to his butt, right? When you get up the field, let the receivers, how often is a receiver pancaking a guy, right? All you got to do is the receiver's got to post, turn a guy one way or the other, right? Just get in his way. Please don't use your arms. We used to say just stand there and then turn at the last minute so that the back knows to cut to your butt, because that puts you between him and the defender.
So the collision won't be as great.
The collisions will be chippy,
right?
Not
collisions.
Not smash mouth.
Do they run the risk of more penalties?
Probably. But it's risk reward. More penalties and more big returns.
Why not just have them hop on one foot downfield? Or, I mean, it's getting to the point. You have to have 5 on a side. You have to be within 15 yards. You have to, you have to do this. You have to do that. They're making this awfully complicated.
With a really good thing. A really good thing.
I am a purist. I totally agree with you that we're tweaking a good thing. But at the end of the day, the proportion of injuries on kickoffs compared to other plays and serious injuries is alarmingly disproportionate. And if this can eliminate some of that, oh, by the way, if that filters down to all levels of football, whether it's high school or anything else, it's hard for me as a parent, let alone as a coach, to not be in favor of anything that cleans it up, that doesn't get rid of a fundamental part of the game. So do I think this is perfect? No. Do I think it'll need some tweaking? Yeah. Do I think it's an attempt to clean up something that everyone agrees has become the last bastion of, smash mouth collisions?
Are we still kicking off in the CYO youth leagues? Are we still kicking off? We aren't.
No, younger. I don't think you start till, in fact,
middle school maybe.
I think it might be high school now. I think you might not kick off.
You're already eliminating a lot of that ahead of time.
And punts are and this makes it more like punt coverage, which in punt coverage, what are you trying to do? You try to put 2 guys on the gunner, trying to keep the gunners from getting downfield, right? Guys aren't turning around and release until a certain amount of time because you got to respect that something else can happen. This sort of mimics what punt coverage looks like to me.
But against each other to start, a majority of the guys.
Right. But that's what happens on punt coverage.
Right.
Now, is there a possibility that they like this so much they move the kickoff back?
Well, I think that would be fantastic. Bring more of it in.
I mean, I don't like it where it's at.
I hate it. But see, again, that was to make it safer.
I understand that.
So if this makes it safer,
entertainment, though. I mean, there's no entertainment in just kicking off and kicking it through the end zone.
Right, but some Devin Hester or I hated him but Deion Sanders I can name you all the people that were electrifying that when they got the ball in their hands in open space, everyone no matter what you were doing, you turned to the TV.
Eric Metcalf could do nothing else but return.
Correct.
How about Rick Upchurch?
Rick Upchurch, local guy. Yeah.
Desmond Howard and Rocket Ishmael, right. And a bunch of those guys.
Howard ends up getting MVP for the Packers.
Yeah.
Because of his returns.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm saying is we all know those eclectic or iconic plays off the top of our head. Adding more to the mix of that, to me, I'm all in favor of, and especially if we can do it and not have more guys hurt.
Billy White Shoes Johnson.
There's another one. I hope it doesn't take away from like it being a purist. I just don't like seeing it keep getting tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. You'll recognize it in time.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a time out. When we come back, we're going to talk about the value of guys like him, coaches and managers. That when we come back is a Front Row Roundtable show. I didn't mean it that way. Front Row Roundtable show presented by Ralphies, and we'll be right back.
Bring yourself to Ralphies. Yeah, it's that good. It's that good no matter what your taste. It's that good. Come early, stay late. Burgers and beer, a shot of cheer. Great food and fun. It's that
Ag Mortgage Marty here. With the new tax code changes, home equity lines of credit, HELOCs as we call them, have changed whether they're deductible. And with recent interest rate increases, you're seeing those variable rates on them increase. I've had a lot of interest in customers putting them in with their first mortgage, converting to a 10, 15, even 20 year to compress the timeline so they're not stretching back out over 30 and get better rates. If you have interest in that, just text HELOC to the number you see on the screen there, HELOC, and we'll get you info on how to take advantage of that tax deductibility all over again.
Save more at the Monroe Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Superstore when you drive home one of 4 amazing new models for only $178 a month. Drive home in a 2018 Dodge Charger GT all-wheel drive, 2018 Jeep Compass Limited, the all-new 2019 Jeep Cherokee Limited, or the all-new 2018 Jeep Wrangler Limited Sport 4-wheel drive 4-door. Call the Low Payment Kings toll-free at 1-888-4-DODGE-1 or check out hundreds of cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs at monroesuperstore.com.
Since 1982, Red Wing Shoes at North Reynolds and Bancroft, selling purpose-built footwear for men and women no matter what your job is. Carrying the largest selection of Red Wing shoes in Northwest Ohio, over 3,000 pairs of boots, shoes, and accessories in stock to ensure the proper orthotic fit and style for your line of work. Stop in and see Mike, Aaron, or Bob at their newly renovated office. We're easy to get to at the corner of North Reynolds and Bancroft with ample parking. Red Wing Shoes, Reynolds and Bancroft, where service, quality, and fit come first.
Powerbomb Wrestling is on the road with 2 upcoming live events. PBW returns to Findlay on Sunday, June the 3rd at the All-American Rock House. It's a double main event featuring Ben Boone and Pedo the Killer Clown for the heavyweight title and Nate Manson and Sean Casey for the cruiserweight title. Powerbomb Wrestling returns to Toledo on Sunday, June the 10th at St. Clements Hall. See Dr. Jerry Graham's new acquisition teaming with Pedo the Killer Clown against Ben Boone and Brandon Day. Get your Findlay and Toledo discount advance tickets anytime at pbwexcitement.com. All right, back we are, Front Row Roundtable Show, presented by Ralphies. And don't forget wing time at Ralphies, weekdays from 2 until 5, where you can get those half-price wings. Also, after 9 o'clock on any night, half-priced appetizers. So if you're out late, you can stop by Ralphie's, get something great to eat for half the price, catch your game, and head on home. All right, next, coaches and managers. There's a couple of reasons I wanted to bring this up, because I think we kind of touched on it on a previous show a few weeks ago when we were talking about the salaries of major league managers. 2 things. One is Brad Stevens, who has just been absolutely fantastic wherever he has been, and definitely has been a difference maker. And the other one's Ron Gardenhire. And I know the Tigers aren't very good. I know the team's not very good. But I forgot how important a manager can be in baseball. It's been so long since the Tigers have had themselves a really, really good manager. And I think Gardenhire's better than Leland. I'm sorry. Does that mean that everything is executed correctly? Of course not. But the attitude on the team is fantastic. The guys are playing really hard. He's getting the most out of them. They don't quit. They've had numerous games so far this year, probably more this year than they have in all the years that Auspice was there, where they came from 3, 4, 5 rounds down and won games, where in past years the team would just quit. The game would be over. I saw a number the other night where at this time last year they had like 10 steals and 25 attempts, and this year it was 22 out of 32. Now the personnel's a little different, but the personnel's different because the manager's different. And they got more speed, which is going to translate into better defense too. So I'm having fun watching it. That's not to say that the bullpen's loaded with guys and the last couple innings can't be a dumpster fire, because you still have to go with what you got. But I am beyond impressed, and it's fun for me to watch a game because I feel like, even if they are a few runs down, the game's not over.
Ron Gardenhire was a tremendous hire because he, in a small market, I know Minneapolis is a decent-sized town, but really didn't spend a whole lot of money in baseball, and they were always competitive. Won a World Series one year on a very, very low. The Dodgers are one of the highest right now in baseball, salary-wise, and they are what? dead last or second to last in the
No,
West.
they're struggling.
Right?
They're under 500.
For years, the Indians had less salary in the infield in their starting 9 than third base and shortstop at the Yankees. I like seeing these small market teams with good coaching prevail and have some success. And to compare one coach against another, I think, how do I want to say this? I've seen a lot of great players that have played that always haven't had a great coach. But great coaches have always had great players for the most part. You know what I'm saying? You're lucky enough or recruiting. And at the college level, coaches don't get in trouble for strategy on game night. They get in trouble for what? Getting the better players. Cheating to get the better players. They know you have to have better players. When you have better players, you're a better coach. Now, Gardenhire, young guys, they're trying to prove something. Detroit are they in a rebuild or not? We're not sure, are we? With Victor playing all the time, with Barrera all the time.
To me, they have to.
We're going to get to that actually, probably next segment.
When you have young guys trying to prove themselves, they're having good years, and they've won some games. Took 2 out of 3 from the Indians last weekend. Gardenhire and those guys believe in him. When you have success, and I'll bring it back to me a little bit. In 2003, I went to Bowling Green and won the league the first year I was a head coach. They had not won a league title since 1968. When you win right away, those other kids now start following you a little bit more. They'll listen to you a little bit better. Our volleyball at Bowling Green High School was tremendous. Deb Cohen one time made a great comment. She was like 17-0. She said, we need to lose so they'll listen to me again. They were so full of themselves. It's a great confidence thing, but I need to be able to teach. So coaching is different in a lot of different ways, but I know what you're saying about Gardenhire.
In the age of sabermetrics, all right, and there are some things that sabermetrics will not pick up on. And they interviewed Gardenhire. You all right?
When you told me earlier we were going to discuss this, I almost texted you, so we're going to talk about war for coaches. No. And I know how much you love war. So I just laughed to myself cutting the grass, and I was laughing just now thinking.
When they talked to Gardenhire the other night, he mentioned how loose the guys were, and they get on each other and they tease each other, and he says the banter in the dugout is rather entertaining, and he's a little lighthearted, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't, you have to do things a certain way or you're not going to be around. But I'm a firm believer in players perform better when they're loose, and you can probably speak to the overall atmosphere on a club, and it does mean wins or losses, depending on how the attitude is on the club. Occasionally, you'll have teams with lousy atmospheres that win, and and vice versa.
There's always an exception to the rule.
Right, but I think that's a big deal as anything, and there are no numbers to track that.
Knowing your kids, knowing your players, knowing them, their backgrounds, what's going on, especially high school kids, what's going on, what happened in school today, test, girlfriend, those kind, what's going on at home. But like Ron is saying, how loose they are. Urban Meyer talks about the bigger the game, the smaller the playbook. He wants you to not have to think, he wants you to play. So some of those approaches, and Ron Gardenhire gets it. He understands.
Well, I saw Brad Stevens' quote that was talking about 50-50 balls, and the one thing that they do not tolerate is maximum effort on 50-50 balls. Like, obviously, if the rebounds, there's no point in expending energy chasing a ball that you're never going to get to. But if it's a 50-50 ball, they expect you to win the majority of 50-50 balls, because that's something you completely control, is the effort on a 50-50 ball. And if you want to end up on the end of his bench, regardless of talent, don't display that. And to me, that's the difference between not great coaches, but teachers of the game. Learn to control the things you can control, and then we'll work on the things you can't control over time. But there are things you can always control, whether it's effort, attitude, or whatever.
And that's every day, not just game day, but every day.
Absolutely. And so that reminded me of that when I read part of what he gets out of them is they seem to get to balls, and you're like, why does Marcus Smart end up with that rebound? I don't know what, but he did, and he does it all the time.
Tight games, the team that gets the most 50-50 balls usually wins, right? We see it all the time.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep, got to take a timeout. We'll come back, and we'll talk a little bit about when is it too early to bring up a prospect. Yeah, I got to rant. It's the Front Row Roundtable Show presented by Ralphies. We'll be right back.
Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good. It's that good no matter what your taste. It's that good. Come early, stay late. Burgers,
Ag Mortgage Marty here. With the new tax code changes, home equity lines of credit, HELOCs as we call them, have changed whether they're deductible. And with recent interest rate increases, you're seeing those variable rates on them increase. I've had a lot of interest in customers putting them in with their first mortgage, converting to a 10, 15, even 20 year to compress the timeline so they're not stretching back out over 30 and get better rates. If you have interest in that, just text HELOC to the number you see on the screen there, HELOC, and we'll get you info on how to take advantage of that tax deductibility all over again.
Save more at the Monroe Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Superstore when you drive home one of 4 amazing new models for only $178 a month. Drive home in a 2018 Dodge Charger GT all-wheel drive, 2018 Jeep Compass Limited, the all-new 2019 Jeep Cherokee Limited, or the all-new 2018 Jeep Wrangler Limited Sport 4-wheel drive 4-door. Call the Low Payment Kings toll-free at 1-888-4DODGE-1 or check out hundreds of cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs at monroesuperstore.com.
Powerbomb Wrestling is on the road with 2 upcoming live events. PBW returns to Findlay on Sunday, June the 3rd at the All-American Rock House. It's a double main event featuring Ben Boone and Pedo the Killer Clown for the heavyweight title and Nate Manson and Sean Casey for the cruiserweight title. Powerbomb Wrestling returns to Toledo on Sunday, June the 10th at St. Clements Hall. See Dr. Jerry Graham's new acquisition teaming with Pedo the Killer Clown against Ben Boone and Brandon Day. Get your Findlay and Toledo discount advance tickets anytime at pbwexcitement.com. Welcome back to our Roundtable show presented by Ralphies. Norm Waymer, Von Graffine, Marty Bin. All right, I've been going back and forth with some people on Twitter on this. So thought, hey, why not talk about it here? All right, and really it involves Kristen Stewart for the Mudhens. All right, who's leading, as we tape this, the International League in home runs, which is not a huge surprise because if you looked at his career, and he led the Eastern League last year in AA in home runs. He's had 3 years with, I think, 25 plus, so I don't think any of that's a surprise. Well, a couple of days here before we taped, the Washington Nationals brought up Juan Soto, 19 years old. He actually started in low A this year, got bumped up twice, went to high A, and then went to double A. He had 52 RBIs, I think, in 39 games or something ridiculous like that. His first start with the Nationals, first pitch he sees, hits a 3-run homer.
To win the game.
Well, it was early in the first
Okay,
inning.
but I mean, it was 3-2, I think.
Vladimir Guerrero
Right.
Jr. did that
Okay.
in a double-A game, who, by the way, is down there hitting like .415, and he's actually a few months younger than Soto. And here's my complaint on Kristen Stewart, because there's a lot of people saying, oh, what's the hurry? The guy's 24. He's 24 and a half, really. And I'll tell you why that's important. Guys have more career years at what age in Major League Baseball?
25, 26.
27.
Okay.
27 is the year that more players have career years than any other year. He's already 24 and a half. It's time. It's time to get him up. I mean, he's got nothing left to prove. There are some guys that you have to push along because of the bell curve. If you look through the baseball numbers, hitters that are, now that so many PEDs are out of the game, it's not totally, but it's not like it used to be. Guys are aging like they used to age when we were kids. Right. Branch Rickey used to trade guys when they turned 30. And if you look through the hitter numbers, guys that are 32 and over, there's a large percentage of them are either having really bad years or they're hurt. There's a few that are still playing well, which is going to happen. That's the ends of the bell curve. So at 24 and a half, you got to get him up.
I think it really has nothing to do with how they've performed. It has to do with talent or maturity. I think every 19-year-old and every 24-year-old is not the same. How they'll handle the big stage, how they're going to handle the different challenges they face. I mean, you've coached. There's some freshmen that are grown men practically when they're freshmen, and there's some seniors that play like eighth graders, at least in terms of maturity. And I think that affects, when you're talking about the money and the big lights and all that, I think that has more to do with it, because I think there's a lot of talent. I think the maturity is what differentiates whether they can come up early or not. And some of them, the bigger the light, the better they play.
But in Stewart, there's nothing to suggest that
right, that's what I mean.
Not
so the idea that you should just wait.
I'm not saying you bring anybody up.
Right.
But I think Soto's a different type of guy. Bryce Harper came up when he was 19 as well. Al Kaline never played in the minors. Bob Horner never played in the minors. There are some guys
I think Mel Ott played when he was not quite 8. I mean, there's you can go way, way back, and guys never played.
This guy is older than Lindor. He's older than Ramirez. He's older than a lot of these guys that are having impact years. Last year and the year before. High school's a little different. When you have a freshman that excels at the freshman level, he a lot of times plays better when he's around better kids.
Right.
A lot of times he's carrying the other freshmen. So high school's a little different. This guy can fit right in. He can fit right in.
How many times have you had good players that grew up playing with older kids?
The good players played against older kids.
Right.
Absolutely.
You watch George Gervin, who shot like this because he played in the courts when he was playing against 40-year-old men when he was 15.
I think there's just as big a danger, if not maybe a bigger danger, of holding a guy back. I mean, you will find out if you push some guys that they don't have major league talent. But you're going to find out. I mean, there's always the Brad Comments, or, you could name all kinds of guys that bust when they got to the majors.
What I was thinking is, how
Billy
long have we
Beane.
known each other? Because I think this is the first thing you and I universally agree on in all these years. Give them the shot, because you can always bring
But
them
at
back.
least the first time through till you get a feel for the guy.
yeah.
Let him go in and tear the
Let him
league
find
up
his
again.
own ceiling. Let him
Right.
tear it up until you
You know,
can't find where they can be successful, and then work on it.
Lou Piniella managed in Seattle when Alex Rodriguez came up, and he bounced back and forth a couple of times. I mean, he first came up when he was 19,
Well, he and
but
his
he
position
bounced back
hadn't
and
quite
forth.
got the right mix of.
But what I'm saying is, even if they come up a little early and they don't do well, it's not the end of the world.
No.
A lot of times you could take that back to AAA and you know what you have to work on.
Right. I totally agree with that.
And,
As I said, we broke a new ground here tonight.
the Double-A, if you look at the minor leagues, Double-A has messed with the least throughout the year. That Double-A roster may look a lot the same at the end of the year. Triple-A, you have guys out of rehab, then they're back, then they're down, then they're up, down. You can use Triple-A a lot of times that way.
Your best prospects are generally at AA.
Yes, absolutely.
AAA is filled with guys, not totally, but has a lot of pitchers that are late 20s, early 30s, throw a lot of junk, don't throw real hard. And if you can perform in that environment, well, then, you're ready. And I think, like you said, they are rebuilding in Detroit. So get Victor Martinez out. You're going to have to pay him anyway. That's the spot that is gumming things up for Kristen Stewart and Miguel Cabrera, that you could play there part of the time too. And I understand Kristen Stewart's defense is not the greatest, but that's the way it goes sometimes. All right, we got to get on out of here, guys. Thank you very much. All right, Powerbomb Wrestling coming your way at 2 a.m. If you can't catch it, DVR it. If you can't, you can catch it on Fight.tv, or I have a YouTube channel now too. Just look up Norm Waymer Productions. We'll see you next time. It's the Front Row Roundtable Show presented by Ralphies.